And Kevin Ray, is this Phoenix team as revamped as the numbers suggest? I mean, last time I talked to you, we were talking about a coach getting fired. Now we're talking about a team on fire.
Yeah, you know, it really comes down to you've got good young talent that really needed to be taught and coached. And when you consider the numbers, Chris, and we were talking about it during the break, that they have been able to put forth in 2 weeks. I mean, it's been essentially 2 weeks that Jay Triano has taken over this team. Guys, they have had actually just one full practice under Jay Triano. So when you consider all those factors, just coming off of a 5-game road trip, playing again tonight, I think what they have accomplished is nothing short of amazing, and still a lot of work to be done. But I think the biggest thing that Jay Triano came in and did was a very clear message, and that is, look, you will be held accountable. And the accountability starts on the defensive end. If you are not hustling, if you're not competing, as he says, then we'll find a spot for you over here on the bench. And when you're ready to compete again, you'll go back in. And, you know, guys love to play. It just comes down to that. And I think with that, surrounded with the talent, he's gone back to a traditional rotation. That, along with a few other things, has helped clear things up here.
He said there's only been one full practice. It's not as though there have been major roster changes over the last 7 games. I mean, what else besides accountability has his team going in the right direction?
Well, I think, you know, people may forget Jay Triano has been a head coach, is a head coach, the Canadian national team. Spent 4 years in Portland, you know, talks, you know, gushingly about his time with Terry Stotts, the relationship they have there, what he has learned. But this guy is a basketball lifer and picked up things throughout the years that he has utilized. He gave his coaching staff a several-page, basically, manifesto of this is what we want to do, this is the expectation that we have for our players, this is the expectation I have for you as assistant coaches. And I think just doing that, it was just a very clear message from day one that he's given these players, and they have followed suit. Still so much work to be done, though, with this young team. But as he said, we are developing them to compete, and once they learn how to compete at the level we want and we need, then we will start working on the basketball stuff.
Well, T.J. Warren scored a career-high 40 points on the road against the Wizards. How important is he to the team's development and guys like him stepping up in different nights?
Well, he is big for, you know, this team because it takes pressure off of Devin Booker. Devin Booker is a marked man, has been since he dropped 70 on the Celtics last year. But T.J. Warren, his teammates call him Tony Buckets, but his personality is such that, you know, he defers to people and defers too much oftentimes. But when you saw what he did last week against Brooklyn, he scored, I think it was 16 of his 20 in the fourth quarter as they rallied to beat the Nets. And then, as you mentioned, dropped the 40 on the Wizards. It's no fluke. He just has a very easy way of scoring about him. Loves the mid-range game, which, as we know, is kind of a lost art these days in the NBA. And so you have him coupled with a Devin Booker. Mike James, they're bringing him along, the 27-year-old rookie, if you will. So T.J. Warren, having him in uniform, having him be aggressive from start to finish is going to be key for this team's long-term success.
Kevin Ray, appreciate your time. Thank you for the insight.
You bet. Anytime, guys.
So a lot of layers there, but one we didn't talk about, Eric Bledsoe. A guy that, I mean, he was a key part of this team. You thought they would need him for his success.
Why didn't you ask him that?
Because it's time to talk to you guys.
He get the good stuff, right?
He was close to the horse's mouth and didn't ask the horse, did he? He went to the backside and asked the horse. Now, hold on, we're the backside. The guy,
no,
the front side of the
star of the show,
well,
right?
We're going to tell you what we think now, but we're not actually there on a day-to-day basis.
All
But
right. Give us the hard stuff.
Okay, so big picture, because we know we're not having Phoenix insight about this, but as an organization, when you come out and say, hey, this guy wants to be traded and that's what he wants, do you shoot yourself in the foot as a general manager when you're trying to move him?
I think the way that whole situation was handled, to me, and I've said this before, is that when you question if the player is telling you the truth or not and you say it publicly, you know, then you basically put the organization and the player in a no-win situation. you know, it's kind of like now they're playing chicken, like who's going to blink first. And, you know, that conversation, if you're questioning his truthfulness, you do that behind closed doors. And you have that conversation behind closed doors. But to publicly say it like that, I think it put everybody, you know, in a tough situation. What we see happening now is there's a mending of the fences coming back. You know, the players coming back. We got a new coach. We got a new system. We may have a new environment. And by the way, he may be pretty good in this
Now they
system.
got him in the building, letting him come to the building to work out, because you're looking at saying, wait a minute, everybody wants this guy, but because of what we said publicly, because look, I understand your feelings were hurt, but Isaiah's been the president of a team, a general manager. You can't take it personal. You got to understand, they had just come off 3 tough losses, 48 points, something like that. They had just got
30 points per game.
Yeah, they were getting blown out. So there's a frustration. And then players have pride. When I would have called Eric in, I would have asked him about the tweet. Regardless of what I believed, I would have took him at face value. I would have had my own thoughts. We would have had an internal meeting. And then at that point, if we really would have felt like he wanted out, quietly, we would have started making phone calls. I would have never let this get public. I would have doused it by saying, I believe what my players said. Now you have your own personal feelings. But when I saw the interview with the general manager, it looked personal. And you can't take it personal, because you have to understand that at the end of the day, Ernie Grunfeld taught me one thing. When you're dealing with the players, you have to always remember, you have to be above it. Players get emotional. And you cannot feed into their emotion. You take yourself out of it, don't take it personal, and then you quietly go behind doors and you do your job.